Everybody's got to take a break sometime.
They will. You can be assured. The common things that you see at this stage of the race are some leg injuries, some a little bit of diarrhea, and some of them are tired, and some of them have to be pulled for those reasons. But the dogs have been in this race remarkably healthy. I mean, there hasn't been a major significant injury or illness to any of these dogs.
Compare the MP cost to the co-op cost, there's no comparison. It's so much more expensive through the co-op per kilowatt hour for residential customers.
Well, frostbite is possible from freezing on down. The difference between 20 below and 20 above is frostbite at 20 below happens in minutes, sometimes even seconds, whereas frostbite at 20 above may take an hour or more. So the difference is in the speed with which bad things can happen.
It's a 3-bedroom, tri-level home. It's got a jacuzzi, a satellite dish. It's on 15 acres. We feed deer in the backyard. It's fenced backyard with a kennel and a separate attached building with a kennel in the back for the dogs.
Watchdogs, they will bite if you bring them.
Is a principal tourist attraction, which represents not only the city of hereby proclaimed January 17th to the 21st, so that we don't have to expend.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the youth involved to help protect, preserve, and clean up Wisconsin Point, which is what we feel is a very important natural asset to Superior. And it was just, we were brainstorming at that time, and ideas came from it. Where we ended up.
How are you going to first?
We could increase accountability because it's an electronic game which is tied to a central computer that the state lottery already has, so that the entire game throughout the state is constantly monitored every 24 hours, so there can't be cheating and there can't be stealing and thievery.
The Northwood Children's Home is just one of the county's centers for troubled youth. Cost of placement at this type of facility averages $30,000 annually. At Valley Youth Center and others like it around the county, staff members use existing resources to try to prevent their young clients from ending up in homes like Northwood's. Jim Huber heads the county social service department and decided he needed to see firsthand what was being done to aid children in need, children from what we tend to think of as non-traditional families. When he visited the Boys and Girls Club of Duluth, Huber heard firsthand about what value these centers and their staff can be when children come from threatening environments.
A lot of our members come from single-parent families. The club is the club is very important to these kids. There's been times in talking with the kids in the office where they break down and start crying.
To begin to solve the problem of children in need, Jim Huber says we must first realize that there have been great changes in society where family life has been de-emphasized, placing greater stress on what we've come to view as the traditional family unit, which Huber says doesn't exist.
Traditionally, a family unit, Duke, might be a single parent and children. It might be a grandparent and children. It might be a mom and dad and children. It may be two women living together with a group of children. You know, I mean, I don't want you to narrow down the focus of family in such a way that it's, you know, we're only thinking of Ozzie and Harriet.
Huber says when he's completed his research, he'll have developed a system to deliver cost-effective aid in a way that's acceptable to community standards, stopping the practice of just throwing money at the problem.
Residents watched, not believing their eyes this morning, as emergency construction crews cut and drilled holes into the once beautiful lobby ceiling of the Graceland Plaza apartments. They cut the holes to relieve the trapped water, which came from a 4-inch water pipe that froze and broke.
The break actually took place between the 6th and 7th floor. At that point, it pretty much stayed in the elevator shafts and stairways. But when it reached the ballroom level, then it spread out throughout the ballroom level and then has since rained down into the mezzanine and lobby and sub-basement levels.
The pipe ran from the basement to the roof of the 15-story building where it used to connect to the water tower. The tower was removed years ago, but the water in the pipe remained. The sound of water dripping awakened the resident manager at 2:30 this morning. He opened his basement apartment door and found the rainstorm. Over half the residents who live here are disabled. They need the elevators to get outside. Because the water temporarily disabled the lifts, management had to bring in some special help from outside for those who had special needs.
We have staff, and we've called in temporary help to station people on every floor to respond to errands that they need, if they need a prescription, and also to deliver the meals. If we have a medical problem, we'll call in the Gold Cross or Medivan or paramedics.
Well, if I had to leave, they'd have to carry me out of here.
Catherine McCormick has lived at Graceland for over 4 years. She recently broke her leg and is confined to a walker. She found out there were problems while trying to do some household chores.
I decided that I wanted to put some clothes to soak in the kitchen there, and then I got all this crap came out, you know. Rusty water and ice cold.
I found the brake. Yeah, it's right here.
Then at noon, another senior residence had a similar problem, only this time it was a fire sprinkler pipe that froze and broke at the King Manor apartments. No one's apartment was damaged. The leak was underneath the living level. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
It's time to get it cleaned up. It's just that type of day, and you've got to get it done.
On December 13th of last year, Luella Letourneau was brutally murdered. On December 21st, Richard Floyd Little led police to her body as part of a plea bargain. In return for a complete confession, the location of Luella's body, and a plea of guilty to second-degree murder, the state agreed not to seek first-degree murder charges against Little or any other charges related to this crime, and to give him the state-recommended sentence of 346 months.
Well, we're pleased to the extent that we were able to bring some peace to Luella Letourneau's family and locate her body for them. And we're also pleased in that even with a plea to second-degree murder in light of Richard Little's age, he's going to spend most likely the rest of his life in prison.
Besides submitting his plea today, Little provided details to the court and the Letourneau family about the murder. As family members listened and wept, Little described how he returned to the murder scene the day after murdering Luella. He also described how he shot her a third and final time well after she was dead.
We had different ideas of what went on, and a few things got clarified. Each one of the trials, a little more came out, and things are getting easier.
But while things may be getting a little easier, things are by no means back to normal and won't be for some time.
She had so many friends and everybody liked her, and she was so good to everybody that it's hard to realize, yet that she's gone.
Sentencing for Little is scheduled for February 28th. State guidelines call for a sentence of 346 months, of which usually 2/3 is served, putting Little behind bars until the year 2011, at which time he will be 72 years old. In Virginia, Ted Rollins, News 6.
Policies for you and I in the future. I think it's important that all of us have our assigned risk plan in this state, which makes a very good health policy. I don't think that a sin tax is going to pay the way for health care. I think we're being very naive in that. I think that, if you're going to talk about a payment structure for it, it ought to be through the current system that's already established. We already pay what's called an insurance assessment through HMOs. If you've got insurance coverage, either through yourself as an individual or through an employer, today part of your premium is an assessment that helps pay for people who can't buy coverage.
Apply, and the home doesn't quite meet.
There you go. Betty, the home or
People in the city of Duluth are interested not only in the large mansions that attract a lot of attention, but in the ordinary homes that working people lived in. And they are interested in restoring them and at least returning them to somewhat of the character that they had when they were built.
At the heart of today's protest, the power of the paycheck and the freedom that comes with it.
Their esteem has been built up. Their values have become perked up. They think more about themselves, and as you can see, they think more about each other right now.
Fond du Lac reservation officials say a seasonal slump at the casino brought layoffs for 60 employees. The casino says it laid off only those workers whose attendance and performance records were less than adequate. Protesters argue more compassion should have been used in the layoff process.
A lot of the people that are working here have never worked before or have had very limited experience in getting up and going to work. 70% unemployment before the casino came, and now we can't expect them to act like tried and true employees overnight or in 6 months.
This is our first time out of the gate, and we fell flat on our face. And so we're picking ourselves up, and we're saying, okay, gee, you got some major issues here. It was applied unfairly, and we're going to change it. And you say that you want to be pull tabs. No. Who is this for?
Well, I thought it was for like the local hockey or the baseball club or the...
People from the United States who are concerned about this issue get together, collect aid, bicycles, computers, school supplies, hospital supplies, and drive down to the border, cross into Mexico, and then take the supplies to Cuba.
Oh, we have a nice time here. We had a good doing the CD, and it's fun. It's really fun to have these young choir singing. You know, it's going to be good.
Försök stoppa hjulet. No aid.
He told us to meet him down at the parking lot across from Electric Fetus. We picked him up there. I had to stop at this residence around here to pick up a set of keys from a friend. And next thing I know, Sarah comes running in saying, Sylvester is taking off with your car.
Just before 6 o'clock last night, this man, Sylvester McCurry, was found guilty of third-degree criminal sexual conduct. After the verdict was read, McCurry asked if he could use this bathroom. When the bailiff on duty turned his head, McCurry decided to take a walk. Went down this hallway, down these stairs, and he was gone. Not sure if McCurry was hiding somewhere in the courthouse, police sealed off the building and started a floor-by-floor search using police dogs. Meanwhile, McCurry had walked home to pick up a few personal items and then headed off to seek help from some acquaintances.
He told us to meet him down at the parking lot across from Electric Fetus. We picked him up there. I had to stop at this residence around here to pick up a set of keys from a friend. And next thing I know, Sarah comes running in saying, Sylvester is taking off with your car.
The stolen car was reported to the police, and McCurry was picked up in West Duluth at 7:15, approximately 90 minutes after his escape. The obvious question that surfaces after last night's incident is, how can a convicted felon just walk out of the courthouse?
It was a mistake. It was a mistake on the part of the court.
I don't know if I would characterize it as an error. I mean, if the gentleman had to go to the bathroom, the gentleman had to go to the bathroom. But I think what it's forcing us to do is really take a look at our procedures.
The procedure is for the court to call the sheriff's department when security is needed. In this case, security was on the way. In the future, security will be in the courtroom.
We are going to be working with the sheriff and looking at changing our operating procedures to make sure that we don't have a reoccurrence.
In Duluth, Ted Rollins, News 6.
So you just try to get to know, and hopefully they'll, the whole purpose of it is just to experience each other in that kind of setting, learn about each other, and learn about themselves, and just have a great time.
That's all right.
Terrible timing.
If the people lead, the leaders will follow. And I think there's a lot of credit to that. And I gotta say, I'm really swelling with pride about all these people here and all the people in Duluth that are getting behind the issue. And however you feel on this issue, I just think it's important that we get this out in the openness of public light.
This is the crunching result.
A large cloud of snow quite often is produced, especially in this cold, dry weather, by snowplows. And in fact, clouds of snow are also produced by semis and other vehicles driving down the highway. We ask motorists to use a lot of common sense, a little extra caution. You know, those snowplow rigs are pretty large.
The primary theme of Valentine's Day is love, and what better to bring this out than the bright color of red? However, with gifts of flowers and cards so popular around the 14th, some store owners are seeing green.
Retain jobs or seek out new businesses, or is this more?
Each group in its own way have been successful and have been able to attract business to our community and help retain businesses in Duluth. But we feel that by working together, we're going to be much more effective. Each one will be contributing to the effort. And
Not sure that they'll actually be that, but
be able to be that place that they can come. We can find them
on teams so that we don't run parallel paths and have duplicative efforts. But A1, or of equal importance, is that we can get build a muscle.
Yeah, 6 days a week now. But it's all good now. TV, we'll put those in place.
The surgery that was scheduled during that time was either rescheduled for later dates or some of it went to some of the other facilities in town. But thank goodness we're back in business, and we have all of our physicians back, and it was a big celebration on Monday when we got to reopen again.
Hi, help yourself. Yep. That's a good one. Winding down on Friday.
The primary theme of Valentine's Day is love, and what better to bring this out than the bright color of red? However, with gifts of flowers and cards so popular around the 14th, some store owners are seeing green.
Business has been real good, although it's been real concentrated. With the cold weather, the first part of the week was real slow. But once the warm weather hit, boy, everybody's been coming out to the mall in droves.
We've been extremely busy. Very busy. Today has started out, it's been rough.
A careful plan of execution must be followed in great detail to win your Valentine. Usually a card isn't enough. It's almost expected that a gift accompany that card. We know about chocolates and flowers as traditional Valentine's gifts, but what's new for this year?
The balloons, and we had a passionate raccoon that everyone really liked called the Love Bandit.
Dogs make a great gift. These Dalmatians were given away as part of a Valentine drawing this afternoon. Once a gift is chosen, a creative way to present it should be carefully established. For example,
on the recordable cards saying, "Will you marry me?" on the recordable cards, or buying a Precious Moments and putting their engagement ring on the Precious Moments figurine and having the girl open the box and there's the ring on the Precious Moment.
And whatever you do, don't wait until the last minute unless you're male. Remember, keeping with tradition is important.
Oh, definitely last-minute shoppers are males. Organizers, I mean, the women are usually in a couple days ahead and what have you, but the guys, we'll see them all day long today.
Well, what do you think?
In moving around from location to location, it was clear to see that the last-minute shopper was indeed the male on this Valentine's Day. And the hottest item? The recorded greeting card.
Have a happy Valentine's Day. In Duluth, John Jetta, News 6.
In language in Congress. There are a number of options. Germany, for example, the providers, the producers of the drug sit down across the table from government leaders, healthcare leaders, and union leaders, and the business sector leaders, and negotiate prices and components within their national health plans.
You know, but how long now? For 2 years. People have a long time now. Can we get to Chapter 1 finally?
Well, we as Americans always want things done instantly. And,
of course.
And,
let's talk
is,
about how to bring down the cost of penicillin.
More orchestrated effectiveness and effort outcomes. I think that's the third thing that it's clear that the law enforcement community cannot do the job by itself. The community, the neighborhoods, the people that live within the various areas need to be closely linked with the law enforcement agencies to help do all of the things that need to be done. And so this isn't a governmental task per se, it's a task that all of us have to get involved with. The second major
that this place has been broken into, and there were items that missing from inside the house that were later identified as coming from here, and we feel that a burglar or burglars had been here and broken into the house, and how the fire got started we don't know.
The issues of this legislative session have been well publicized. Crime, health reform, property tax reform, welfare reform, but welfare reform that's fair, according to the people protesting on the steps of the Capitol today. But today in St. Paul, it was really a day for the reemergence to power of Representative Irv Anderson.
It's a chance to help people, to solve problems, and to do the people's business. That really is Irv Anderson.
During a private conversation this morning, the state's new Speaker of the House talked a lot about the perception of the old Irv Anderson and the reality of the new leader with power second only to the governor. As he told a packed House chamber after being sworn in, the new Irv Anderson knows the public's business must be done in the open.
People of Minnesota demand that we work together to address the issues before us. They will be watching us closely. They will tolerate neither partisanship nor posturing. And they will know who is serving their interests and who is serving some other interest. Let us now begin the new session in a new atmosphere of openness.
For the first time ever, the House session today was broadcast live on television, part of the openness in government Anderson seeks. In the bowels of the Capitol, where the press hangs out, everyone has pretty much the same opinion about the issues facing legislators this session.
Their main priority in the House is to get reelected. You know, the Democrats had a terrible year last year with PhoneGate and ski trips and the big trip to Duluth, you know, and everything. And so they want to get reelected, and so they'll start fast. They'll try to put an ethics bill on the table, crime prevention, welfare reform, and property tax relief.
If the public is skeptical of the work legislators do at the Capitol, it's probably because of the influence of lobbyists. Legislators vow there will be changes, and even some lobbyists agree some may be needed.
And when the public thinks that their work isn't getting done because lobbyists have unusual influence, you ought to do everything possible to relieve them of that impression. And I don't think it does well for lobbyists to fight any of those efforts.
Irv Anderson was elected House Speaker today by a margin of 81 to 50, with Republicans holding their ranks. But as they vowed cooperation with the new Speaker, everyone knows this was just day one of the session. Republicans here at the Capitol say they'll work closely with Speaker Irv Anderson and the rest of the DFL majority, but they want the message to go out to the state. It's time for Minnesota to live within its financial means. And while they expect that this might be a 10-week session, after all, it is Minnesota. And in Minnesota, politics can sometimes take some strange twists. The fun has begun. In St. Paul, Duke Skorich, News 6.
Of the coalition changes approximately every 30 to 45. I guess ever since I graduated from college, I've always worked with kids in academic. So it's kind of a mixture, but it's been interesting to, you know.
Duluth has a lot of different shelter settings in it for families and women and children, and there was just a need that wasn't being met to keep those kids caught up in school and making sure that they were enrolled.
I can imagine because, you know, once, you know, it's traumatic enough, you know, they, I guess, getting put into a crisis situation, that school is probably the last thing these kids are, you know, thinking about. Or
and for the parents also, if they're dealing with other crises in their lives, they really need to try to get some things in order. So if the kids can maintain in the regular school or keep
Oh my God, they're our kids. 2 years ago, he asked us to raise them. Our families merged. We've been parenting these girls for 2 years.
This is going to give us an opportunity to meet the people and give them an opportunity to meet us. It's also going to let us explain the different programs we have in place and explain how they work. And we also are going to solicit some ideas where we want to know what the public wants us to do and what they expect of us.
What's this going to cost?
It's not going to cost anything.
How's that?
Well, we'll reschedule. We'll put on back burners, etc. March is a good month.
They have a permit from the MPCA, and that everything that they have done, according to them, has been very good up to now. So.
I mean, when they grab the chip.
It was very important with feeding almost 8,000 people a month, 8,000 meals a month, and 1,000 food baskets a year. We need all the support we can get, and this is 1 month where we can really capitalize.
They were going to scare the person that was threatening them. They gave no indication that they were going to follow through and actually use the gun against the person. In fact, we found no ammunition for any one of the 3 guns.
That's still not a problem. Still have a resolution pertaining to candidates that's also to what? We'll get to that. Small delegate, otherwise known as BTOU.
I believe it's going to be term limits and environmental issues and so forth. And I believe term limits are going to be at the top.
I still think it's going to come around to jobs in some form or some manner. And I still think that's the paramount concern of everybody, even though crime and other things are important.
We knew who he was, and we had a warrant on him, so they went to pick him up. And they were going to pick him up by doing the traffic stop. And he sped off.
National Steel Union members are calling today's encounter with company representatives nothing more than an informational meeting. The two sides met behind closed doors at a Twin Cities hotel for much of the day. National Steel recently announced plans to idle the Keewatin plant until the end of 1996. Company officials say they can buy pellets cheaper than they can be produced at the plant. Today, union officials ask for proof.
Number one is the thing that we want the proper information so we can digest it and take a look at it and see exactly where we are going. And we want the good, honest issues, and good honest numbers, and whatever it takes to take a good hard look at the situation.
It's a situation that has been described by both sides as having a grim future. But for now, union members say they're still looking for a way to return the plant's some 600 employees to work.
Well, we're always looking at other options. I mean, we have to, because we can't just sit on square one, because we have to look at other possibilities.
The company may have the upper hand, but union officials say they still have a few aces up their sleeves.
Just a few weeks ago, the union brought another unfair labor charge against National Steel. That brings the total to 19. But it may be some time before the National Labor Relations Board hands down a decision both sides are eagerly awaiting. In Minneapolis, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
An environmental concern is creating a potential increase in the cost of living. The National Audubon Society and the Associated Contract Loggers co-authored a bill that could raise the price of wood and paper products.
The fact that our current logging practices are unsustainable. However, there are opportunities to make some changes in what we're doing and at least move in the direction of sustainability.
The legislation will pay loggers to become more environmentally sensitive by completing a 5-day study course. After completion, the loggers will receive the title of Master Logger and get paid more money, $2.50 per cord. This cost will be paid by a $4 per cord tax levied on paper and lumber mill operators.
As I say, I believe that this bill is just a way of making the logger look like an uneducated individual in northern Minnesota. I think it makes the logger look like an idiot.
Sundberg says loggers are already aware of the environment and take necessary steps to preserve the forests. If the bill passes, it could increase the cost of paper by 2 cents per dollar and by $5 for every 20 now being spent for a sheet of plywood.
If they do pass the legislation, then the cost will most definitely be incurred by the consumer, not by the producer.
So these costs need to be passed on to the consumer and passed back to the person that's actually implementing the practices out there on the ground.
Consumers who don't like the idea of spending more money for wood and paper products have about 1 year to voice their opposition to legislators. However, supporters of the bill are optimistic that it will pass in the next state legislative session. In Hibbing, Chip Wallace, News 6.
I'm doing this run not to create a vision of a hero. I'm a role model.
In Carleton County, we've gone from about 200, about 12 and 13 years.
Thank you.
Wisconsin scientists has looked at the study on rats and actually said that it led to increased bone growth in the rats. It also can cause breast cancer, increased incidences of breast cancer in women.
Joanne. And John said he thought it was bomb. And a grower. And hopefully we'll be able to put some sort of a marketing program together.
We're trying to form a not-for-profit, limited equity cooperative. We're trying to own the building, make sure that all rents go for rehab, repair, and maintenance of the building. Nobody profits except the building.
Sex, rape, morning sickness, even anorexia. Just a few of the words or phrases this woman says make her faint. Now, we're not identifying her at her request, but thanks to this trial, the strange condition she claims to have is becoming more well known. It's called conversion hysteria, and this is the man the woman says brought on the condition, then molested her. Her neighbor, William Gray, charged with sexually assaulting her twice at their apartment building last spring. The woman didn't faint today when she took the stand to explain why she passes out.
My whole illness is a defense mechanism, and I am trying to protect myself.
And here's an example of that.
He put his finger in my rectum.
On day one of the trial, she fainted 4 times during testimony. But it's what happens after one of those fainting spells that will decide whether Gray is convicted. The prosecution has to show the woman can hear and understand what's going on during a spell, even though she can't see or talk. Her therapist claims she can.
Was really freaked out.
It's been 10 years since Mark Chekala has stepped in Duluth City Council chambers. He describes his last visit as one of the most horrific experiences in his life. Chekala had traveled from Moorhead to speak in favor of a human rights ordinance, an ordinance prohibiting discrimination against gays and lesbians.
That I was shocked to hear that there are some people who, on religious grounds, would want me to be executed because I'm gay. And then I was jeered by the audience. There were people who were yelling amen, and some people yelling go back where you came from.
A newspaper article from 1984 recounts a Duluth minister even stood up during the meeting and called for the death penalty for homosexuals.
It was not a pleasant experience. It was one of the more difficult experiences I've had in my life.
It's been a long decade for Chekala, but in an ironic twist, today he found himself in the city council chambers once again, this time as a member of the governor's task force on gay and lesbian Minnesotans, a task force charged with ensuring the rights of Minnesota's gay population.
We are simply trying to find out whether or not the effects of that legislation and other hate crimes reporting has had any effect throughout the state.
The task force is out to publicize the new law banning discrimination based on sexual preference. And this time, when supporters met in the council chambers, there wasn't a minister calling for the death penalty. Instead, one calling for understanding.
There are a lot of people who are confused about this issue, but almost nobody wants to be about something that is wounding our children. And I think clearly we are inflicting deep wounds and we are killing our children.
The man makes this
in Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Cheered him again and again. I mean, that's 10 years ago. I think that was a kind of a...
Mr. President, Congressman Leach made some that federal regulators tried to stop.
Well, I don't think it's useful to get into blame. I think what's important is that I answer the questions that you have that are legitimate questions, that I fully cooperate with the special counsel, which was requested widely by the press and by the members of the Republican Party, and who is himself.
You and your wife have both used the phrase bewildered, confused about why all the interest in Whitewater. Yet, in the Arkansas Savings and Loan business, your wife represented Madison Savings and Loan before the Arkansas Savings and Loan Board, whose head was a former lawyer who had done work for Madison Savings and Loan.
The Highway 23 Veterans Evergreen Memorial Drive that runs from Askov to West Duluth may soon have more traffic. Bike traffic on a bike trail that will be 100% federally funded.
With the passage of the last Federal Transportation Act, the funding came under the new Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act. 10% of our state's highway dollars have to be spent on transportation enhancements like bicycle trails.
That adds up to $750,000 for the proposed bituminous trail that will connect both ends of the Willard-Munger Trail and thus form a circular bike path of more than 30 miles.
It ties together the city of Duluth with Renshaw and Carlton and the smaller communities of Riverside in a family-oriented type way that, since it will be a long route, the circular route, I envision people staying overnight, camping out at maybe Spirit Mountain if they have the facilities, or maybe a new facility.
The trail will be a dedication to Alex Laveau. He was the man instrumental in securing the Veterans Evergreen Memorial Drive.
He had passed away dedicating the overlook for the veterans, and he worked so hard on the Veterans Overlook, and everybody appreciated it, but nobody had any idea what we could do to honor his memory.
The project is a joint effort involving the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the Minnesota DNR, the City of Duluth, and Carlton County.
We hope to go to design this year, have the project up and ready for contract letting for construction beginning next spring. Probably will take the whole construction season of '95 to build it.
The trail will consist of a 6-foot wide paved shoulder and a 2-foot wide grass shoulder that will run along both sides of Highway 23. In Carlton County, John Jetta, News 6.
Focuses on water quality, and it's a chance to bring quite a few of the interested parties or the citizens in the basin together in one place to discuss some pretty important issues like the health and integrity of the Great Lakes.
You only have a few minutes to get out, and a smoke detector may only give you an extra minute, but that's the minute that can save your life. And that's kind of what we're trying to give people, is that extra minute. But it also makes our job easier. The sooner we find out about a fire, the sooner we get there and we protect the lives better, and we put the fires out quicker than protect the property.
If you print your name and address
station. That's the first station. There's big studies on certain tones will make a certain bell go off in a certain station.
From 1981 to 1991, tuition went up 183%, which is an average of 18.3% a year, which is just blasphemous. You can't expect students to come up with 20% increases every year. It doesn't make sense. How many jobs can a student work? You've got to take your credit load.
I guess I'm very encouraged by the process.
But I don't think that we can expect the political system to do all that needs to be done in terms of shaping the future of Duluth. I think the political process would have its place, but hopefully that the educational community, the medical community, business community, private individuals would do their part in helping shaping the city of Duluth. So it really shouldn't be left strictly to the political entity, I should say, to do all that needs to be done. So I think that's why I'm excited about the broad-based involvement.
I guess that's all past political entities.
I think it's a good idea. It's a good opportunity to meet former or future employers. It's a good chance to see what the job market is like, and you get to know what the real life is like.
A lot of times wildland fires are caused by maybe a little carelessness, oftentimes by accident, obviously. And it behooves all the citizens to be very careful. We have potential for a real dry season this year.
This is just another example of the kind of effort that the Sam Brown and the mayor have been making to tell Duluthians that their vote doesn't count. But the fact of the matter is